What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 7 prediction video. This is going to be a special video that I am making for all of you kind people that have donated to this channel by joining me over on Patreon. Since you go above and beyond to support this channel, I wanted to make a video answering some of the questions that you had, so let's get right into it. Carrie asked, do you think that the three heads of the dragon, metaphorical or otherwise, could possibly be the Night King, who is ice, Daenerys, who is fire, and Jon Snow, who is both? Thank you for the question, Carrie, but in my opinion, I do not think the Night King has anything to do with that prophecy. But I do like the way you worded this, with Dany being fire, the Night King being ice, and Jon being both. That does make the question more intriguing, but in my opinion, if there are going to be three heads of the dragon, or even three dragon riders, I believe they all have to be Targaryen, or have the blood of the dragon, I should say. Since the Night King is a Stark, I do not think he falls into that prophecy, but that doesn't mean he will never take a dragon. As we all know from the past, these dragons may seem unstoppable right now, but they can be killed. And by the end of the series, and by the end of this story, I think some of them, if not all of them, will be killed. Another question Carrie asked, she said, a lot of the characters have been left out of the show, but they made room for Euron. Is this simply to have a third act villain now that Ramsay is dead? Or do you think that he might have a larger role to play in the final battle? I think the answer for this is yes and no. They do need another villainous type character, although they do have Cersei and the Night King, who both seem to be causing a hell of a lot of havoc right now. But Euron will play that role as well. He might not be around until the very end, but I think he will make a huge impact this season that causes a shift in Westeros. His role is also going to depend on how much they actually adapt from the books to his character. In the books, he is said to have a dragon horn and armor made out of Valyrian steel. Those are two huge game-changing things he could potentially have in the show, which would completely change everything. But obviously, Euron didn't have the dragon horn with him at the Kingsmoot, which is where he should have presented it. But maybe, just maybe, he provides this offering to Cersei. Imagine if someone had a weapon to take a dragon and control that dragon. Imagine how much it would change things. And if Euron has his full suit of armor made out of Valyrian steel, imagine how useful that would be. Not only could you wear the Valyrian steel armor fighting the White Walkers, but you could also melt it down and make it into a shitload of weapons. Depending what Dan and Dave wrote into the show for his character, I think Euron could play a significant role. But it's hard to say what he will actually have with him. I'm hoping he lives up to his potential from the books, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see. Brienne also asked a couple questions, which I really do appreciate. The first question is, if we are to know all there is to know about Robert's Rebellion by the end of the series, what will we see? Okay, just to kind of clarify this for people who may not know, George R.R. Martin made a post on his Not a Blog recently, and he said HBO hired 5 writers so they could create 5 different pilots in hopes of a new show getting picked up after Game of Thrones ends. George said Robert's Rebellion will not be chosen as a spin-off series because he said when he finishes his story, we will already know everything about the events that took place during that time. So to answer your question, Brienne, when George said that, he was actually talking about the books. He said when he finishes his story, we would know everything. He didn't necessarily say the television show would reveal it. I think he meant his books, but I do believe we will see a few things that took place in this time period before the series ends. We could possibly get a quick scene of the battle at the Trident, or we could see Rhaegar and Lyanna getting married, if they did in fact get married. Or we could get another Tower of Joy scene, but this time we could see Rhaegar and Lyanna together. That way Jon's father is visually confirmed. Bran will be harnessing his powers this season, so the possibilities are endless. Brienne also asked, once the Night King's army reaches the Wall, does that mean the wildlings north of the Wall are extinct? The giants, the children of the forest, other northern creatures, you know, north of the Wall. In my opinion, yes. In the television show, I think that has more or less already happened. Most of the people north of the Wall were killed at Hardhome. Jon was only able to save a few thousand of them, and all the children of the forest that we saw north of the Wall were killed at the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. And all the giants we saw in the show are now dead as well. Mance did say one of the giants was the last one in his bloodline, but this also doesn't mean it was everyone north of the Wall, because we don't know how many children of the forest were actually up there. Tormund also told Jon that most of the wildlings were at Hardhome. He didn't say all of the wildlings were at Hardhome, he said most of them were there. So there is a strong possibility there could be more people still north of the Wall. But I think when the Night King comes to the Wall, I think that means everyone else that could be up there is dead. When the Night King comes to the wall, that will be because there is nothing left up there for him. He is already cut off from getting more of Craster's babies. And once all the humans and other species are dead up there, he will have nothing left to add to his army, leaving him with no choice but to come south. Everything and everyone will be dead north of the wall when the Night King reaches it. The Indie Sports Car Podcast asked, what percentage, in your opinion, of how accurate the plot leak really is to what we'll see in all 7 episodes this season? I'm not going to read anything from the plot leak in this video, but I will say that I think the plot leak is insanely accurate. I think the plot leak is 75% accurate at least. And if you have read the plot leak, and you have stayed up to date with all the spoilers and promos and trailers and etc., then you know the plot leak has already been proven to be at least 50% right. Just by watching the trailers, if you've read the plot leak, then you know most of it is right. And if you don't think so, you are just in denial, and you don't want to accept the fact that it got most of the stuff right. But I do not think all of it is right. I think Dan and Dave did make some changes after it was leaked, but they couldn't go back and change everything because it would take too long and cost too much money. When the leak came out, they were just starting to film, so there was only so much that they could actually change because they had already scouted the locations, they got permits to film on those locations, and so on and so forth. Some stuff was set in stone no matter what. And I know there are still people out there who say the person that wrote this plot leak just copied it from the photos that were already leaked, but that is not true. When the plot leak came out, there was only a handful of photos that were leaked from the set, and those photos didn't show them doing anything. They were just standing around the trailers. Most of the photos came out months after it had been leaked. Parasolka asked, history likes to repeat. Is Cersei already a Mad Queen, and will Jaime kill her just like he did before with the Targaryen king? Or maybe Daenerys, after losing some fights, will become more and more desperate and lose her mind. Looking back at the Targaryen history, there is a high possibility for mental illness because of incest. In my opinion, the answer is yes. I think Cersei has already taken things a step further than the Mad King did. We know he wanted to burn them all and burn King's Landing. Although Cersei didn't blow up all of King's Landing, she did already prove the lengths she is willing to go to in order to take out her enemies. And I think we can all assume that she may do this again. We are going to see Cersei spiral out of even more control as the show continues on, which will leave someone with no choice but to end her life. Jaime is definitely a top candidate to be the one to choke the life from Cersei. And with Daenerys, I think there is also a good chance we can see that with her too. I think if Daenerys starts to lose any of her dragons, we will see her go down a darker path, possibly even go on a rampage. We did see the Great Hall in ruins during her vision at the House of the Undying. There is a good chance Daenerys decides to burn the city to the ground herself. Since there are only holes in the roof, that must mean it was damaged from above, most likely by a dragon. If this was caused by wildfire, it would have completely destroyed the whole building, like we saw with the Sept of Baelor. Bran also had a vision of dragons flying over King's Landing, and I won't be surprised if Daenerys takes the burn them all approach either. Anything is possible, so I wouldn't rule anything out. Martin Brooks asked, as we have seen so far, the story arcs between the books and the TV series have not always been in conjunction. So do you or the panel foresee a situation where the producers of the TV series actually take a huge leap off the storylines and come up with something entirely new? Absolutely, Martin. Just like you said, we have already seen this happen in the past on multiple occasions, and it will definitely continue to happen. Dan and Dave may know how George intends to end his story, but they don't know everything else, so in order to get to that ending, they are making shit up as they go along. We're going to see deaths, reunions, and big battles that won't necessarily ever happen in the books. Tila says, I don't think it will play a role in the show, but Gilly's baby was switched in the book with the King Beyond the Wall's baby. Does baby Sam have anything to do with the Night King? Also, Rob's baby is alive in the books, but of course not in the show. Just been wondering. I know your videos are on the show, so I don't expect a video, but your thoughts would be appreciated. In my opinion, Gilly's baby 100% has something to do with the Night King. Gilly's baby should be a White Walker right now. The baby was not meant to leave the North without becoming a White Walker. That was not part of the deal Craster had made with the Night King. I'm not sure how that deal was made, or everything that it entails, but Gilly and that baby are still around for a reason. Look at all the other relationships that have taken place in the show. Basically every single person that was in a relationship is now dead or on very bad terms, but Sam and Gilly are still together, stronger than ever. Gilly and that baby would not still be alive if they didn't have a role to play. Time would not be wasted on them just so Sam can have a girlfriend. Gilly is with Sam because Sam has a connection with Jon and the Wall, and we all know Jon will have another encounter with the Night King. Gilly and the baby being with Sam keeps them involved in the story and the show without ever having to focus on just them. They are there in the background, but the baby will come to the forefront at some time. I can't remember where I heard this quote, but it said the reason why the White Walker started to wear armor in the show was because Sam was able to kill the White Walker when he came for the baby. After Sam stabbed the White Walker, they started to wear armor, and it all stems back to the Night King wanting that baby. There is going to be some consequences for that without a doubt. There is one more question I will answer, then I will get out of here so I don't take up too much of your time today. Dennis Chadwick asked me if I have ever made a video about all the different relationships, love interests, past and current, sisters, brothers, etc., that are on the show and how they are all connected. I have not made a video like that, Dennis. I have made a few different marriage or wedding type videos before, but nothing like that specifically. But since you are such a big supporter of mine, I did make a note about this for future reference. That way I can look into this a little bit more for you. Thank you very much, Dennis. I also want to thank you all for stopping by today and supporting this video. I really appreciate that. We are only 6 days away from the premiere of Season 7, Episode 1. I'm getting pretty damn excited at this point. I hope you all are as ready as I am. This should be a lot of fun. I also got a ton of equipment showing up at my house in the next few days. I have plans to make all kinds of different videos during the season. You might even see me on camera soon, doing some reactions and live streams. So I hope you all show me some mercy when you finally see me on camera. I'm pretty excited for that as well. Before I go, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. Without your help, I would not have been able to buy all this new stuff that I have coming to the house. You all will actually be a big reason why I am able to produce my videos with a higher quality this season. And I cannot thank you enough for that. I hope everyone has a good day. I love you all, and I'll see you down in the comment section. Bye.